those on the live streaming, so thank you all for tuning up. Councillors, I'm about to just have a word of prayer. If you'd like to bow your heads, you're more than welcome to. Heavenly Father, thank you, Lord, for today. Thank you, Lord, for us to be able to meet here and also discuss the business of today. Lord, may you guide our hearts and guide our minds so that we all discuss in your harmony the discussions that need to happen, decisions that need to be made for the growth of our district. Lord, look after those who are unable to be here today and help those who are travelling in your most precious and loving name. Amen. Councillors, as usual, declarations of interest. All those, please declare those interests as we get through to the part that you're involved in. We have no apologies today, but we do have Councillor Peters online, and it's always great to see Councillor Peters online. Councillors, I remind you again, this meeting is live streamed, so members of the public, just to remember, if you are in agreement with something and you'd like to say so, you please use the sign language approach. If you're unable to hear, please make it known to the ushers that we have out there who will help you in that side. Elected members, I need to remind you again, please use the microphones and please speak clearly into the microphones. We have had people online saying that we don't speak clearly enough into the microphones. Some of that is also from our staff and those who are bringing as consultants. So please do use the microphones as that will help those online to be able to hear clearly. Councillors, we have a supplementary report, which the report contained in the supplementary agenda. This was distributed within the Lagoima timeframe. They are item 6.4, 2024 rates review, item 7.4, 2025-26 fees and charges, item 7.5, annual plan 2025-26 consultation document with supporting documents, and item 7.6, which is local waters done well, March 2025. Please note that these are will be consulted with our public if they are approved today, and the consultation period will be from the 2nd of April through to the 2nd of May. And we will endeavour to make sure that all of our community is quite well aware of the consultation documents that will be used, which is basically the annual plan, along with the local waters done well and also the fees and charges. There is no public forum today. We did have someone asked to come in and speak. However, they've since turned around and said no, that not to do it this time, which is fine. So we'll move on to our confirmation of minutes. Do I have a mover for the confirmation of minutes of the meeting held on the 27th of February 2025? Councillor Jovich, Councillor Reid. All those in favour? Any opposed? Carried. Thank you, councillors. We have now the minutes on the meeting held on the 17th of March. Do I have a mover for those? Councillor Reid, Councillor Harding. All those in favour? Any opposed? Carried. Thank you, councillors. And now we're also going to confirm that the confidential minutes of the Whangarei District Council emergency meeting held on the 11th of March 2025 have been circulated to be taken as read and now confirmed as true and correct record of the proceedings of that meeting. I'll move that. Do I have a seconder? Yep, Councillor Hulse. And there's the second point to that, sorry, Councillor Hulse, I should have read this as well, that the confirmed minutes of the Whangarei District Council emergency meeting held on the 11th of March 2025 be released to the public. So I've moved those. Councillor Hulse, you happy to second that? Councillors, just so you understand, this is the meeting which we held. It was to be held in confidential, and due to it not getting across the confidential side of things, we are releasing that information out to the public. So it's not actually releasing the confidential information, it's releasing the process of what we had to go through. So it's been moved in second. All those in favour? Any opposed? Carried. Thank you, councillors. We'll now move on to item 6.1, which is on page 25, which is the Better Off Funding Portfolio Progress Report, March 2025. Councillor Benny will move that. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Harding will second that. Councillor Benny, do you want to speak to that?
Yes, I do. So this goes back to August 2022, when the Three Waters debacle was happening. This council was offered a sum of money, which at the time was described by some as a bribe, and on Facebook we were slagged far and wide. I just want, hopefully, people watching and councillors to have a look at some of the projects that were funded by this. You know, particularly Whangarei Heads, Fire Brigade, City Safe, Ruakaka Rec Centre, new land search and rescue base, the Oakra Sports Park, and the Māori Wellbeing Fund. Really good projects that would not have been funded otherwise. So I just want to go back to 2022, where some people weren't here, some were, and say well done to those that were involved in the process. It's been a, as it turns out, there was no bribe, there was no repercussions with taking the money, and some really worthwhile projects have taken place because of that.
Any other discussion? Councillors, you've got the agenda in front of you. We'll take it as read. Councillor Benny, do you want your right of reply? No? Right of reply has been had. All those in favour? Any opposed? Carried. Thank you, councillors. We'll now move on to item 6.2, which is on page 41. Councillor Jovic, you'd like to move that? Can you, it's the same purpose that Councillor Benny, can you just read the line item for us?
Recommendation that the Council notes the operating results for the 8 months ending 28th of February 2025.
And Councillor Olsen seconding that. Councillor Jovic, you want to speak to that?
Just for the interests of for our elected members and the public, why this has been presented today is that we had with a change in the meeting schedule, we've pushed it through to this period instead of having a full meeting, because our previous one was only just recently. Overall, the operating result, as is noted, shows a favourable variance for the year. Still, things are tight, and outside of that, I think the report is fairly explanatory. Yeah, that's all at this stage.
Good points, good highlighting there. Councillor Olsen.
Thank you, Your Worship. Could just someone advise me the favourable variance of 3.7, this is mainly due to the 3 million budgeted grant to Hihiawa not paid yet. When can we expect that to be paid?
That is a very good question, and probably one they may not be able to answer. However, Alan Delise, are you able to answer that at all? Did you understand the question?
Good morning, councillors. Through the chair, I believe half of that will be paid in this current financial year. The agreement's been worked on further now and progress reports being received. So that will be updated in the next forecast.
Any other questions? Councillor Benny.
Just on debt and interest on debt especially, I see the revised budget has gone from 9.6 million to 11 million. Is that due to interest rates or an increase in our net debt?
Alan or Delise, are you able to answer that question?
Not sure which page you're referring to, Councillor.
Can you refer
47.
Yes, it was that
Key
page.
indicators. Got
Yep.
external debt funding, net interest on debt, right down the very bottom of the page.
Yep.
Through the chair, that's just comparing the year-to-date budget versus the full-year budget. It hasn't moved. The 7.3 is the budget to February, where the 11 is the budget for the full year.
But the next column is the forecast. Full year forecast was 9.6 and revised budget is 11.
Correct. So we are looking to have interest cost $1.4 million below budget.
Well, that's below budget.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Right. Okay, I just
variance.
understand.
Yep.
So I just want to make a point if I can. So in the last couple of weeks, we've had the money people talking about costs of various projects, one project in particular. And I just want to point out to everybody that these meetings come and go. Nobody queries our debt repayments, which is around about $200,000 every week. And And it's really interesting. We go past all that. We've got some topics later on which could affect our debt and our situation, and we just ignore them and carry on. I know we're in a good position compared to other councils. I'm not criticising our position. I'm just pointing it out. It's something that we don't discuss often enough. Our debt, our situation with debt, and our appetite for future debt, which is going to increase. $200,000 a week. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Benny. Councillor Mackenzie.
I guess just in response to that, Your Worship, through the Chair, those things are all planned for within the long-term plan, and they have been thoroughly considered over an 18-month process and allowed for. And actually within the long-term plan, we have a plan to pay down debt over the course of the 10 years. I think that's quite in contrast to something that has unallocated funds and costs that are being incurred, something that isn't planned for. So I'd just like to draw that distinction without letting it pass. Thank you, Your Worship.
Yeah. This is not a go backwards and forwards, and I was just going to point up, Councillor Mackenzie, this is not a backwards and forwards, Councillor Mackenzie. That is your right of speaking. You have now, that is it. Any more questions? Councillor Cooper.
Thank you, Your Worship. On page 45, just to change the topic, accounts receivable, Alan, through you, Your Worship, and Denise, there's a talk about the arrears. Do you feel it's worth expanding on that, please? Or could you expand on that, please? I guess the figure of 2.3 million more than last month just jumped out at me, and I know in the scale of things it could well be, but yeah.
Councillor Cooper, so you're asking for Alan to explain a bit better?
Yeah, just give us on his feelings of the arrears. We are going through a tough time, we're all aware of that, and what we do impacts people, we understand that.
Alan, are you able to answer that?
Yeah, the arrears are lumpy through the course of the year because we have quarterly rates instalments. And immediately after an instalment, there are some who don't pay their rates, and you have a spike in arrears, and then when that comes down quite quickly. Often people just forget to pay, or their direct debit's been dishonoured, and they put the money in the account and it's paid straight away. So we do see those peaks and troughs through the years with our arrears. Overall, our arrears are tracking really, really well. We are not seeing a major change in arrears compared to previous years. We're not seeing more people in distress. We work closely with people to set payment plans in place where they need them, so they can avoid the instalment lumps if they choose to, through having direct debits linked to their pay. So we're not seeing a change, and we're certainly not seeing our arrears are still well below most other councils. If Alice wants to add to that at all? No.
Thank you very much.
Yep. Alison, I noticed that you were there at the same time, and this is also an area where you... That definitely is another chocolate fish. Yeah, so Alison, from your side of things, as the person who actually receives a lot of the payments coming through, are you finding any abnormalities happening with payments?
For the moment, no. For the moment, there's no abnormalities. As Alan said, that's just the normal behaviour. We still have the people that we're refusing to pay rates, and that's increasing. So that's one thing that we're dealing with. But we've got quite a few of those with our debt collector now.
And from that, Alison, what is the percentage that we have of the population, or of the rates or properties that are not having outstanding? Do we have
So we have about, so when after the instalment went out, we sent out about 2,000 penalty letters. So that's out of 45,000 properties, about 2,000. And then afterwards we sent a second reminder out, to those that are on email, but all the others we contact by telephone or directly because of the cost that it is to send a second reminder out. And that's got down to about 1,000. So that we sent those out last week.
Yeah. And Alison, just to continue with that, was there a larger pickup of the extra fund that's provided by central government, the rates rebate?
Oh, the rates rebate, that's at the same level as previous years.
Okay, cool. Councillor Cooper, you've still got your light on. Is there a reason?
No, Your Worship, none at all.
Okay, Councillor Olsen.
Yes, thank you. Alison, just a question. So the people who, that are in arrears, is that, do you think, through hardship, or is that through those people thinking that they're not getting value for their money for rates? Do you have any feedback on that?
I would say that it's generally on, I wouldn't say hardship, but when they're not prioritising their rates to pay, they're struggling to pay their rates. Yeah. There are a few people that refuse to pay rates, but as I said, but it's a very low percentage compared to the people that are struggling.
Okay. Thank you, Alison. Councillor Benny, you got a...
Yeah, just on page 49, just the monthly activity summary. I was just looking last night for supports under the support services. I take it that's staff wages, and does it also include the consultants and legal and outside legal things we use?
So basically, you're asking is there a chance that the fees that were put in that include everything, or they just include one?
I'm asking what support services includes.
Yep.
Through the Chair, support services are all the functions like finance, ICT, democracy, which support the other activities which provide general services. So all those have their own salaries in them, all those other activities. These are the people who provide service internally to other parts of council.
So in particular, consultants and outside legal use. Where is that? Where do we list those figures?
The consultants, again, would be within each one of these activities. The costs for them are directly attributed to that activity. The legal team is part of the support services, but at year end, those costs are allocated out to the business based on metrics we use, which is often headcount based, but also can be more direct where it's appropriate.
And lastly, and I'm not doing this for any other reason other than it's interested, is that the consultants that we use, do we ever have a breakdown of what that equates to?
Again, it's case dependent. There are consultants and contractors we use. Sometimes a contractor is providing a contracted service, such as doing road maintenance. Sometimes they are coming in to fill a staff vacancy. So we do have separate accounts for those to show those through our accounts. So we monitor that thing internally. We don't present it at the summary level. But we do have that breakdown at cost center level, so I know where those costs are being incurred.
Okay, I don't know whether I'm alone or not, but I would love to see those figures at some stage.
Yeah. So probably the biggest thing, Councillor, is come along to the Finance Committee meeting. Those are the sort of discussions that are asked regularly there, and those are actually also the questions that are also answered amongst the team. I realise this is in the public agenda right now, so is the Finance Committee as well. So it's actually held in the public, and we do welcome all the councillors to attend that, who can attend that. There is some very interesting information that does come out regularly. Councillor Jovich, would you like your right of reply?
Thank you, Your Worship. In terms of the operating report, just pick up on a few things here. I mean, this is in line with our LTP. Just for the benefit of everybody, we have just sat through a meeting with Standard & Poor's where they have explained, and there has been public knowledge, that they have downgraded 18 of 25 councillors just recently. Our rating is very stable outlook, and that's in relation to the stability of the council in terms of the financial reporting. We have adopted a balanced budget and that has assisted it, where other councils don't even actually factor in depreciation. And you would have just seen that recently, as of yesterday, with Tauranga City Council, where they've actually just brought in $27 million worth of depreciation and blew out their budget, and they had to save $29 million worth overall. So the financial governance has been put in place through this last chamber. However, that doesn't mean that in terms of our future rates, and I know this was part of the LTP, is that we were forecasting rates increases. That isn't something that I am comfortable with. And however, that is something we as a council need to address. The debt side of it, as has it been indicated, is to reduce. But again, as much as it would be nice to decrease this, some of this does apply in terms of our strategy around intergenerational debt. We could be front-loading that with massive rates increases now and having zero debt. However, is it fair for people of today to pay for tomorrow's assets? And that's where we do need to spread it around the intergenerational. And, we can discuss that further. So thank you to the finance team. Yes, we welcome the comments and the feedback, and always looking forward to improving things in terms of how we do present them. But in terms of stability, as I said, we've got a favourable outlook for the next 3 years. But that doesn't mean that the finance team will fall back on their laurels, because we will be pushing them in terms of where we are wanting to go with rates increases and the overall improvement of the district.
Well said, Councillor. The right of reply has been had. All those in favour? Any opposed? Carried. Thank you, councillors. We'll now move on to item 6.3, which is on page 69. Councillor Jovich, you're going to move that again. I'll get you to read it just for clarity's purposes.
A recommendation that the council notes the capital projects report for the period ending 28th of February 2025.
And Councillor Reid will second that. Councillor Jovich, would you like to speak to it again?
The only thing would be in terms of the carry forwards is still of concern. We did address this in terms of the LTP and previous rates increases. So it is disappointing that we do not have this under control, especially at this time of the economy, where we've got businesses out there needing work, and that we aren't continuing to get this right. So that is a big area of concern that as a council we do need to be addressing. That's all for now.
Yep, thank you, Councillor Jovich. And I have a question, and I know this is probably going to be a multiple question for either Alan, Delise or Jim, which is now sitting in the hot seat. On page 71, which actually shows a beautiful graph, which actually shows quite clearly how the things are laid out, the actual year-to-date is quite significantly lower than the revised date, as Councillor Jovich has already highlighted. However, it's also showing it's quite above what previous years were. So the question relates back to is how well are the team at pushing out projects to make sure that they contractors out there are getting things done?
Morena, Your Worship, councillors. We've made a lot of improvements as an infrastructure group and as an organisation, but we can't rest on that. I think, talking to our infrastructure chair and deputy chair, we've identified some areas where we can make things more efficient. We meet regularly with civil contractors. We met with them last night, and one of the streams of work we're looking at is how can we get more work to the market quicker. The other thing that the team are doing is where projects get delayed, and projects do get delayed. If I think of a few projects where we're waiting on landowner approval, there's negotiations that are being extended, and there's other good reasons why some projects get delayed. But what the team are looking to do is to bring other projects forward, and I believe there's in the case of Waters, there's another project that's been brought to you where there's some work that can be delivered that we can get out to the market, and we can feed our construction industry. I think there's certainly, in the construction industry, things are really soft, and our community is hurting in that space. So we're really cognizant of that, and wherever possible, we're trying to get work out as quickly as possible, and to make sure that that work's spread across the market, so we keep as many people afloat as we can during this period.
Thank you. Councillor Hulse.
Yes, I'd just like to back Jim's comments up there, and in the background there's been a lot of discussion about bringing projects forward, and I just want to thank Andrew Carvell now in the water space and Jim for actually working proactively to get those jobs done, and they've been requested very, very strongly to make sure they try and pull forward as many projects as possible. But also in this one, there's a bit of frustration with all the delays caused by Three Waters and the implementation of our water plan. So there was a genuine delay there that's outside our control. But I can assure you the infrastructure chair and our finance chair have been working really closely to make sure that carry forwards are minimised. So, but some really good work being done with the team, with the managers and the chairs. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hulse. Councillor Reid.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, prior speakers. We've restructured our whole infrastructure department, and we've split it in two. And the reasoning behind that, between the Chief Executive and myself, was to try and drive more production to get better results. We're achieving that, but we still keep coming up against these little blockades and block walls and hiccups. And we've identified that some of our processes need to be changed right through procurement and the sign-off. You know, there's just little things that need to be trimmed up again. We've done some of it, and we've taken possibly 2 months out of projects just with one simple little change. So we're quite focused, and I've got the backing of Finance Chair and the Deputy Mayor, and we are pushing harder to improve the flow of work. Thank you.
Well said, Councillor Reid. And I know the team are working very, very hard, and I will acknowledge the work that both Jim and Andrew and Alan and Delise are doing, along with our elected members, to make sure projects are getting out there to our contractors, and we are getting them on a timely basis. Everyone acknowledges how hard it is for our contractors out the project, and it is important that work is actually getting out there so that they can keep employees employed, because that is at the end of the day the most important thing. Councillor Jovic, would you like your right of reply?
Not in this instance. I think it's all been covered by the team. Thank you.
Okay, thank you then. Right of reply has been had. All those in favour? Any opposed? Carried. Thank you, councillors. We'll now move on to the supplementary agenda, which is page 3, which is 6.4, which is 2024 rates review. You may want to stay in that seat there, Alan. Again, apologies, councillors, because we've had to move things around here, and as all these items came in not quite the same time, we had to make sure we're switching across to the supplementary agenda, which is page 3, which is 2024 rates review. Probably should say 2025 rates review, but that's okay. So I will move the agenda, that's the item that's there, that the council, 1, notes the information contained in this report, and 2, notes the direction that has been provided is the basis for preparing the rates information for the 2025-26 draft annual plan and consultation document. Councillor McKenzie, you're going to second that. Excellent. Councillors, as the document does say, you can clearly see there's a whole pile of things that are in there ready for going out for consultation processes. There is a lot of information which talks about, we've gone through about the first principles and how council has made sure things are getting done. You've got the order of the process of things have happened. Again, this goes on to our long-term plan, what we went through last year and how it was adopted. A lot of the changes that we're making are merely tweaks to the system to make it easier and more affordable to our public. However, we're still going out for consultation on this side of things. The documentation is there. There is several things which have been highlighted, as with the UAGC, the different value for that, along with the great thing about it is our council has unanimously decided to rule out capital value and stick with land value. Where the UAGC will make a difference for a lot of those lower income people, as well at the same time it will make a big difference for our commercial properties, because the SUIPs, which get charged for commercial properties when they have multiple titles there or multiple units there, the UAGC gets multiplied. So on that side of things, it's in there. There is the sector splits. We went through those as well. And we also went through the targeted rates and the stormwater rates. These are, the targeted rates are one area which I know affects a smaller group of people, which includes the wastewater, the water, the Hikarangi swamp and seal extensions. And I want to make it very clear that we also looked at forestry rates. We also looked at other aspects of trying to make sure things get done properly. The stormwater rate is a new one. And this is mainly because when we've gone through our waters program, we've realised that the biggest damage to all of our roads and all of our assets is mostly through the stormwater side of things. So this is when the water comes down. In the past, we have used our roadways as our stormwater channels, and that has actually caused a lot of slips to happen. And we have identified that as one of the major concerns about going forward. So it's a stormwater targeted rate, specifically around stormwater, as with our sewage and water rates, which are we ring-fenced as well. There is, on page 22, which also talks about our water rate. Now, this is the bit that probably affects a lot of people. Te Matawai and ComCom will be charging every person within this district approximately $5 all up per year. This is a service which has been provided, and when questioned ComCom and Te Matawai about this, they acknowledge that Whangarei is in a very different scenario to most other districts around New Zealand. And the reason for the fee is more to provide that service that they are going to be providing. And again, they have made it very clear that they may not ever come to Whangarei and may not ever monitor Whangarei, what Whangarei does. However, they need the funds there so that they can. As you can see by my tone in my voice, that is a little hurtful feeling, because I do feel that our council should only pay for stuff which we actually use or are required to use. And this is a fee which I feel is a little bit unfair for our district, since we have actually done very, very well on our sewerage and our water. And that is not just down to me, that is actually down to progressive councils over the years to get to this point. However, the government has realised that there is an issue over the whole country, so this is the way that they're dealing with it from the whole country side of things. That is from that point there. I'm going to go to Councillor Olsen to see if she would like anything to add.
Just for the sake of the public that are streaming in, could you just explain what, because some people might not know what ComCom is?
Very good point, Councillor. ComCom is a shortened variation for the Commerce Commission. So the Commerce Commission monitor fuel prices, power prices, along with monitor grocery prices, and now they'll be adding in there the prices for water and sewage. So that's one of the aspects that they'll be taking care of. Yeah. Any other questions or comments? No other questions or comments? Councillors, as I said, this is going out for consultation, so all those in favour? Any opposed? Carried. Thank you, councillors. We'll now move on to item 7.1, which is back in the main agenda again. Again, I do apologise, we're just going to go through this chronically. So we're item 7.1, which is on page 81, which is the changes to Hapu membership, Te Karerea Strategic Partnership Standing Committee, March 2025. Councillor Harding, you'd like to move that. Would you like to read what you'd like to move, please? Because there's several items there. And Councillor Peters, you're seconding it. Would you want to wait till Councillor Harding's read it out first? No, you're happy with what Councillor Harding's going to say. Okay, Councillor Harding.
Mihi ana kia koe, thank you Te Koromatua, and mihi atu Kia koe mo tō karakia I tēnei ata, to cover all of us. Mōrena kia koutou. The whakataonga is that the council, number one, accept the resignation of Sandra Hawken from Te Kārearea Strategic Partnership Standing Committee, and number two, request the Mayor to provide a letter of appreciation to Sandra Hawken, thanking her for her contribution to the mahi of Te Kārearea. Number three, note that a process to appoint a new member of Te Kārearea Strategic Partnership Standing Committee was undertaken by Te Huinga. Number four, confirm the appointment of Aperama Edwards to replace Sandra Hawken as a hapu representative on Te Kārearea Strategic Partnership Standing Committee for the remainder of the 2022-25 terms, and notes the committee's terms of reference will be updated accordingly.
Now, would you like to speak to that, Councillor?
Yeah, very briefly, thank you, Te Kura Matua, that Te Huinga is the entity that held the mandating of hapu members to Te Kārearea, and therefore and you know, acknowledge the work of Sandra Hawken as the previous chair, and her stepping away from that role. And Te Huinga have gone through, and you'll see in this document the evidence that they went through to nominate somebody else to fulfil her role as a hapu representative for Te Huinga, and then to bring that representative through to Kārearea. Actually, just to bring it through to Kārearea. So, yeah, and absolutely tautoko the process, and also tautoko Aperama as, you know, a strong standing candidate for Whangarei Taringa to be at our council tables. Kia ora.
Okay. Councillor Peters, I see that you've got your hand up.
Thank you. I just want to endorse the words of Deb. Sandra has done a double job. Like she has chaired Te Huinga. She's reported back to Te Kārearea. She's done a lot of work, and those who consult with hapu will know how much work she's doing, and also endorse the appointment of Aperama. We are very lucky to have someone of his calibre to come and add to the knowledge of Whangarei District Council. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Roka.
Thank you, Worship. Yeah, no, very much on the same lines as Councillor Peters. Just want to acknowledge Sandra and all her amazing contributions, all her amazing mahi, mihi ana ki aia. And then just want to acknowledge the immense, I guess, wisdom and knowledge that Matua Aperahama can bring to Te Kārearea and to Whangarei District Council. As we know, he's a stalwart, a rangatira in our community. So I'm just excited to have him joining Te Kārearea. Kia ora.
And thank you for that, Councillor. Councillor Cooper.
Thank you, Your Worship. If there is an upside to being an elected member of the council, it is working with it is the people that you meet in this job, in the main. And Sandra Hawkins is one of those people, and I think it's a chance. It would be remiss of us to not mention that. Now, I've been lucky. I've worked with Sandra on the future development strategy. I'd like to take this opportunity, and I'm sure on behalf of the staff who may not, if they forgive me for speaking on their behalf, may not have the opportunity to thank for the amount of work that she put in and the quality of that work. So just would like that chance. Thank you for the opportunity to say that, and we will miss her. Thank you.
Councillor Olsen.
Oh, sorry, I thought you said Councillor Holes.
Councillor Olsen.
Can I ask that we take this in parts?
And what would the part you'd like to take as separate?
Item 4, please.
4. So you'd like 1, 2 and 3 taken as one part?
Yes.
And then 4 as a separate part?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Any discussion around that? Dom, without Aaron being here, and I'm well aware that he's had a bereavement, with the appointment of Aperahana, it has been raised whether we need to actually have an appointment at this stage. What is the rulings on that? What are you?
Through the chair, I'd probably take you back to the terms of reference for tika rata. So those provide for 8 hapu mandated representatives and 8 councillor representatives. So that is, I guess, the guiding document. And back to the process that was established through the working group in the last term of council, and Councillor Holst chairing that group, where we basically, council made the appointments at the end of the process, but basically went through a hapu mandated process for those appointments. So in terms of consistency and the terms of reference for tika rata, there's no reason not to make this appointment.
Okay. Councillor Olsen, you have your light still on you.
Oh, sorry.
Did you want to ask another question?
Well, you haven't answered my question. Can we take it in parts?
Yes, we can take it in parts, yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay.
Sorry, my apologies, I did not explain that. Yep. Any other discussion? Any other comments? No, it'll be taken in parts. Councillor Harding, you like your right to reply?
Am I allowed to ask why Councillor Olsen wants to take it in parts?
She has asked for it to be taken in parts. I gave her the opportunity to ask to answer that. She did not want to answer that, so we'll take it in parts.
I'm more than happy to answer that question if
It's
I'm
not
allowed.
necessarily a question. I gave you time to speak to it, so that was the time to actually speak to it at that point. I did raise with Dom just there to make it very clear as to what the rationale behind having a separate appointment afterwards, and Dom explained it's all part of the tika rere. Councillor Jovic.
I will speak to it.
Yep.
I agree that it should be taken in parts. I do have concerns with Abrahama in terms of the way that he has conducted himself in the political domain. So I'll be frank in terms of that I will not be voting for in favour of item 4, but take on board the comments about Sandra and thank her for the time that in her role as chair. So thank you.
Okay. Point's been noted, and I don't believe that there's any harshness about this. I'm sorry, I'm just checking something. I didn't think so. Sorry, Councillor Harding, just to clarify, I just got reminded by Nicolene that technically, according to the standard orders, there doesn't have to be a clarification as to why, but I did give the opportunity for Councillor Olsen to explain. Councillor Olsen, you want to?
Yes, can I just please point out, Mr Mayor, that I actually didn't realise I had I could speak to it, so that's why I kept quiet.
That's okay. Point's been taken, Councillor. That's just outside. It's just outside, it's not inside here. So, councillors, they'll be taken in parts, 1, 2 and 3. All those in favour? Any opposed? And I'll take that as Councillor Peters as being for. Item 4, division has been called. All those in favour, please raise your right hand.
Councillor Rupa, Councillor Mackenzie, Councillor Holmes, Councillor Harding, Councillor Cooper, Councillor Connop, Councillor Peters.
Did you get Councillor Bennett?
Oh, sorry, Councillor Bennett.
Right. Those against?
Councillor Jovic, Councillor Reid, Councillor Olsen, Councillor Golightly.
And those abstaining?
His Worship the Mayor and Councillor Holst.
Carried. Thank you, councillors. We'll now move on to item... Where have we got here? Interesting discussions. Item 7.2, which is Stevens Point lease matters. This is on page 85 of the supplementary, on the main agenda. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Harding's going to move that, and Councillor Peters is going to second. Councillor Harding, you'd like to speak to it again?
Thank you. I'll just read
it first, yes, please.
Whakatonga is that the Council, number 1, support in principle Te Parawhau Te Pauwhenua o Te Akarere Kukupa Trust and their aspiration for long-term tenure of the land at Stevens Point Beach Road, Onarahi, Whangarei comprising 780 square metres, more or less being parts of allotment 447 and allotment 395, town of Grahamtown, as shown on SO Plan 37221 and SO Plan 23529. Number 2, instruct staff to identify the best mechanism to secure long-term tenure of the land, taking into account its current status.
Thank you, Councillor. And would you like to speak to that?
Yes, thank you, Te Kura Matua. I have, obviously, Te Patuara Keke, the tile unit have been part of the Whangarei Harbour Kaitiaki working group, and so they have advised me that, you know, kind of 2 years ago, members of Te Pau Whenua o Te Akarere Kukupu Trust raised their interest around, because they were in that, you know, they were looking at that building, then the building, you know, kind of was lost to fire. So it was definitely something that was stated that they had the willingness to do, is to create this kind of kaitiaki unit for all of those hapu around the harbour. It's just that it hasn't been a renewed discussion, and I guess that's because they needed to land it here first. So I just wanted to add that. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for that, Councillor. Good explanation, explaining it quite well. Any other discussions over this? Councillor Olsen.
Question, thank
Yes.
you, Your Worship. Page 89, potential pathway to freehold. The first step towards freehold would require the revocation of reserve status. So has that been applied for? What's happening there?
Okay, that's a good question to throw to Tony, who's just sitting in the hot seat there. Tony, would you like to explain that?
Through the Chair, at this stage, no further action has been taken until we seek guidance from the elected members as to whether they wish to pursue that. It's quite a complicated process, and there are a number of avenues we could pursue, from a revocation to a subdivision almost also appointing the Te Parawhau as the trust as the administrators of that portion of land. So we need guidance first from elected members that they want us to proceed with this. Then we'll go away and we'll identify the best pathway forward, or a number of options for pathways forward, and we'll bring that back to the council for a decision at that stage.
Right, so Councillor Peters, I have online, would like to ask a question.
No, just to make a comment,
Oh, yep.
Your Worship. Thank you very much. I know these processes take a long time, and I'm pleased that we're making the first step, and I encourage Tony to put his best.
Sorry, Councillor Peters, you've gone on silent. You were in the process of saying something.
Yes, I was. Sorry. I just find negotiating that difficult path, and I do notice that repatriation of land is a very complex process for our council, and it is very slow, which is frustrating. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Tony, for your work.
Okay, Councillor Reid.
Thank you, Your Worship. I don't really have any objection to the proposal. However, that is a reserve area out there for everybody, and if that was to be changed for any particular reason for a group, or basically any change of its present status, I would vehemently be against. Thank you.
No, fair comment. Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Harding, you've got your light on still again. Are you going to ask another question, or are you going to?
Yeah, I did. I did also want to. Sorry, I didn't comment on the. That's really disturbing. Sorry.
I know. Sorry, Councillor. So since you've already spoken, you can do your right of reply and speak again, or do a question at this point. Anybody else want to say anything? So,
sorry.
Councillor Connor.
Thank you. Yeah, no, it's great to see this finally coming forward to us to be able to be looked at to progress it. It is disastrous what happened with the fire and just the kind of setback that would have been to everybody. the fact that there was asbestos in it was, I don't know if that's a benefit or a curse, but having to get that dealt with, and it's been dealt with. Looking forward to seeing this progress, and the fact that they've got great aspirations for this space is really cool to hear.
Yeah, and I think I need to raise the sentiments there. I know that there is, around Whangarei, there is, and Councillor Harding will probably cover this in her right of reply, but I do well aware that there is different land claims from different hapu around that area, and I'm well aware that the process of what we've got here at the moment is more about making sure that there is a place that they can set up a organisation to try and work with our community, which is realistically what I see as a great benefit to all of our community, not just to one particular hapu, because they've made it quite clear that it's not just about one hapu. It might be a hapu which is running it, however it is for all of the hapus around Whangarei and also all the community as well, and they've made it quite clear on that, and as you can read in the side there. I know there's always a desire to have land handed back. However, on that sort of side of things, that's not really our part to do. That is actually more a part to do with central government and the processes they go through, and we must abide by that. Councillor Hulse, you'd like to speak.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. My main point I wanted to discuss is that I've been bringing up in the council chamber for at least 3 years about our council should be engaged with people who interlap with the water around the harbour, and we've got a lot of infrastructure around the harbour, including this section. I feel as a district council we're letting everyone down by not having a plan about what we're going to do, and this is just like piecemeal stuff, and it's not a good solid way to do things. We've got a number of council structures have been brought up in the iwi and hapu claims in the Waitangi Tribunal in their recent hearings around the harbour, but I think council should respond in a more proactive way. Like we're getting all these late, and being proactive, you actually have time to put a decent plan in place, but everyone is with you. We carry the people with us instead of coming in here piece by piece and discussing item by item. Thank you. And I'd like to see council actually formulate a plan. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Olsen.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Although I'm in agreement to the proposal in general, what concerns me is that it's leased at $1 per annum without goings covered by the trust, which is fine, and such council may decide to continue with the current lease situation and defer making decisions as the long-term tenure of the site until such times as Te Parawhau have secured the necessary funding required to undertake the proposed development. So is there any way that this could be deferred until we know definitely about that?
That is a very good question to head to Tony. Tony, have you got an answer for that one?
Through the chair, I mean, obviously you can defer it if you wish to do so. The challenge then becomes for the trust, as we've seen with other organisations, the community, that without the security of tenure that the lease would provide, then obtaining the grants or funding that they need is often much more difficult than it need be. So without that guaranteed security of tenure, they may not be eligible for funding from various organisations or even banks. And we've seen that with both commercial and community groups in recent times where it can act as an impediment to them developing what they want to do.
So my next question is that lease of $1, can that be reviewed? Because
Tony, it's another very good question, because I know we do have from time to time $1 leases out there, and from time to time we review them. The question is, Councillor Olsen, can that be reviewed in a time period?
Through the chair, within the existing lease, there will be conditions for review. If we were to establish a new lease, then obviously we can set whatever rate we like. Bearing in mind at present, there are a number of community groups all subject to similar leases. What I do know that the community department are trying to do at present is to bring a little bit more consistency and uniformity around both the nature of those leases and how they're administered going forward.
Can I make a statement?
Yep.
And then that'll shut me down. So, just with regard to what you've said there are other organisations that have similar leases. Maybe it's about time that council reviewed those leases. In times when things are really tight, maybe we need to start generating a little bit more income.
Okay. Councillor Jovich.
Just a question. I mean, this is only just supporting in principle this recommendation, so there's a lot of hurdles to go through. And taking on Councillor Holz's comments, I think that is, you know, a directive to our team, is that as part of what we are requesting with this, is that due consideration be given to our waters in general as part of the whole package. So, I mean, in terms of the recommendation, no issues with this, because there's a lot of stuff that we have to go through, and Te Parawhau have to actually go through a lot too. So,
yep. And I'm quite well aware that Councillor Harding will probably cover that off on a right of reply. Councillor Harding, would you like your right of reply?
Yeah, thanks very much, and appreciate all the the questions from Councillor Olsen to Tony for those clarifications. You know, I see, obviously, Te Parawhau is involved in a lot of Whangarei District Council projects, and there's a lot of hapu movements currently around, you know, land loss. We're waiting for stage 2 report from Te Paparahi o Taraki through the Waitangi Tribunal, and some of those statements are very strong on the losses, especially in the urban CBD area of Whangarei. And but you see that there's a group here that are progressive around securing something that is going to be a future asset for all community hapu members that want to look after Whangarei, the Whangarei Harbour. And yeah, and it's positive, it's progressive. We have this land we're not doing anything with. They were paying $500 annual rent, but the building got burnt down, so why not $1? And I think we should just let the team get on and help them get through something that is not a grievance, you know. It's something that we should be supporting hapu to do in Whangarei. Kia ora.
Thank you for your right of reply, Councillor. We'll go now. All those in favour? Any opposed? Carried. Thank you, councillors. We'll now move on to item 7.3, and this is the Takahiwai Dam. Next steps. Councillor Hulse, are you moving this one?
I'd like to move this recommendation.
Yep.
And the recommendation is Takahiwai Dam next steps.
Yep.
That Council directs the General Manager of Waters to develop a draft agreement in principle with Pāhakikiki Iwi Te Iwi Trust Board, generally informed by the Te Ara Hokiinga, Aote Putakari, about the dam anyway, to consider the future of Puketuri Takahiwai Dam and associated lands. And 2, notes that the draft agreement will be brought back to Council for consideration.
Okay. And Councillor Reid, you're seconding that.
Yep. So
just before you do it, Councillor Harding, you're acknowledging a conflict? Thank you. Yep. So you're pulling yourself from the table here at this point?
Yes, and but happy to answer any part-time that might come my way, but I think the team here have got everything.
Cool. Councillor Hulse.
Okay, thank you, Your Worship. So this is a really, really good move for the local district, and it's all about a dam that's now discontinued and we do not use it, and it serves to council requirements. Since we built the Wilson Dam and our new water treatment plant out there a number of years ago. But this is part of the Takahiwai Hill and the bush area, and that hill line is a huge, good green backdrop for all industrial land. It's down at Brunsey Point, but it's also being really well managed at the moment by a pest management team that work in the hills there to eliminate pests and that by Pāhakikiki. And the history goes way back, and I think it's only right that we take the step to return this back to the local hapu as much as we can. And we have got a situation where some of the land holding is not in Maori title, but we'll wait for this report to come back from our manager. But good positive steps. The other one is, I know that place pretty well because as a teenager I helped batten the fence around the dam. So been right all around the site. It's a great site, but it's a great move to hand it back to the local iwi and local hapu and see what we can develop from there. Thank you.
Not a problem, thank you. Councillor Hulse, by the sounds that you shouldn't have a conflict of interest at saying that you used to do the farming around there? Okay.
Pocket change to adding fences.
Councillor Peters.
Just a question, Your Worship.
Yep.
Is it possible that this item be progressed so that we can do a final decision on it by the July this year?
Without the general manager oh, he is here, sorry, yes, okay. That's a good question we can ask to the general manager. Is that something that can be progressed fairly quickly?
That's our intention, Your Honour, to move it as quickly as we can. There's a few quite complex issues we'll need to work through, but our intention is to bring it back.
Cool. You got a thumbs up there from Councillor Peters, just so. Councillor Reid.
Sorry, I didn't quite get that. Was that by July?
Sorry, I believe Andrew's saying yes?
Yes, we are.
Yes.
We're trying to have it at least in draft, sort of an advanced draft by the end of May so that we can get it to Council in June. That's our intention, but July would be the backstop.
Well done. Councillor Reid.
Thank you, Your Worship. 100% behind this. It served its purpose for the district as an overarching water supply, and I think to hand that back to Patuhara Keke is probably one of the best things we could do, and I would go so far as to say to give them 100% control of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Reid. Councillor Cooper.
Thank you. I'd just like to speak in support of this motion, Your Worship, and also acknowledge the work of the people who over many, many years have got to this point, not the least Patuhara Keke, who deserve recognition for their great work in that area, not just around the dam, but in the pest control and all that sort of stuff. And I think Deborah is here on their behalf. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Cooper. Councillor Hulse, would you like your right of reply?
No, thanks. I think all the comments have been made. Thank you.
Oh, okay, right of reply has been had. All those in favour? Any opposed? Carried. Thank you, councillors. We'll now move on to the supplementary agenda again. We'll go back to 7.4, which is on page 27 of the supplementary agenda. This is the 2025 to 26 fees and charges. You won't have to read the tables, councillor. You can just read the A, B, C and D, that side of things, if you'd like to. Councillor Jovic is going to move that. I will second that then. Councillor Jovic, I'd like to speak to it. You probably read it. For the ones
recommendation is that the Whangarei District Council adopt the statement of proposal for 2025 to 26 fees and charges listed in Table A below, which are subject to the special consultative procedure process under Local Government Act 2002. B, resolved to seek public submissions on these fees and charges in accordance with the special consultative procedure, Table A as outlined in the document. C, adopt the 2025-26 fees and charges which are not subject to the special consultative procedure listed in Table B below. Table B, in terms of the not subject items, are animals, dogs, stock control, building control, Cameron Street Mall permits, cemetery, Forum North Venue Hire, laboratory, library, land information memorandum, official information, parks and reserves, photocopying, searches, swimming pool fencing inspections, transport. D, adopts the 25-26 playing field rental fees and charges included on pages 57 and 58 of the proposed fees and charges which are not subject to the special consultative procedure. And F, authorises the Chief Executive to make minor amendments, drafting, typographical or presentation corrections necessary to the proposed fees and charges and the statement of proposal prior to consultation.
And as the
point of clarification, Your Worship?
Yes.
I think Councillor Jovic might have just missed or adopts an inflation-only increase.
No, what he's done is there's an or in there.
Yeah.
So he's done the first part.
But is it not that we're seeking submissions on that or that?
Yeah, Correct.
Oh,
Oh,
I thought that was a
No,
separate
sorry.
piece, sorry. Dom, I'm just going to double check on this. It's Denise?
Through the chair, the sports ground charges are not subject to consultation unless council requests them to be. So they would be adopted today at either the increase proposed in the statement of proposal or LGCI. So that's the two, we need one option for that recommendation.
Dom wants to just do something.
Through the chair, that reflects the discussion at the briefing. I think in the agenda it talks about how there wasn't clear direction through the briefing and an either or option's been provided, and as read by Councillor Jovic, the first option is the one that has been put in the resolution.
On that basis, can we take this in parts, Your Worship?
Yep, sure, not a problem. Which parts do you want to have it ruled out as?
Well, obviously that point that I was making around the
So
sports.
D to be separate, not a problem. Councillor Jovic, I'd like to speak to it.
No, thank you. Not at the stage.
Not the stage? Okay. Alan, you'd like to speak to
I
this?
was just to note there's a typographical that should be item E, not item F.
We did acknowledge that, and I think Councillor Jovic is quite happy to make that change, as with me. Councillor Olsen.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, I mean, increases are something that we have to live with. My concern, and it'll be a statement, not a question, so my concern's around the sports park. So when it comes to that, and if we're taking it in parts, you know, my heart drops when I see a sports field increase. But I know this is going to public submission, and I just hope that once that happens, that we do listen to the public.
Well, it's been taken. Councillor Connor.
So, sorry, question please.
Yep.
With this one that we're discussing at the moment, it's been put forward as we're adopting that as the increase without consultation. Okay,
correct.
just to be clear. Should this fail, if it does or not, what then for that particular item? Because if it goes through and we pass the whole item and we don't pass one of these options, does that require then a further motion, considering we probably need to have that as one option? Well, one of those options included.
That is a very good question. I'm just going to consult with my very learned Nicolene here to make sure that I get the right ruling on this one, but thank you for raising that. 1 second.
I'll go back to.
So for clarification's purposes, thank you for raising that. Basically, if an amendment wants to be raised at this present moment, it could be raised, and the amendment could be going through as a second piece to go out for consultation. However, if the motion takes it as it is at the present moment and is lost, then there would have to be a separate motion to bring that section piece back. So someone would have to signal that.
So just to be clear, the second option is to go out to consultation on that item.
The part there that says yes, it will be going out for consultation, that's correct, that's the way it's worded there. Dom, just to make sure I've got that right.
But just to be really clear, we've got fees that require consultation, we've got fees that don't require consultation, basically. And this one doesn't require consultation, so whichever option is proposed will be a direct adoption of that fee. Just, yeah, cool.
Does that clarify that for you, Councillor?
I'll sit on ponder it.
Okay. Councillor Cooper.
Your Worship, I have a couple of questions, and you'll have to forgive me, my thinking is a bit woolly, but they're all through you, the finance team. 2 questions. The first one is, this subject of the sports fields has arisen, am I right, because there's a shortage in the operating costs. It's costing us more to look after the sports fields than we have in our budget. Is that correct? Thank you.
And just for the purpose of everyone online, Alan and Delise are nodding to that question.
They nodded their heads. Thank you. The second question, they will not be able to answer by nodding their heads, and that is, if you have an average, for example, rugby team of 20 people, what would the individual increase cost be per player, roughly?
Give them a couple of seconds to do quick calculations there for you, Councillor. And is this, just to clarify for them to answer it, is this for them to play for the whole year, or is that just to play for them for once off?
No, for the whole year, Your Worship.
For the whole year, just for clarification.
One game's no good, Your Worship.
I realise that, Councillor, but I need to make sure for the team to be their calculations that they do it correctly on this respect, because it's a very much of a detail that needs to be done. Delise and Ellen, who would like to answer that question for Councillor Cooper?
Yeah, we just have some counts to get this right. Can we come back and answer that question in a couple of minutes while the debate continues?
Please do.
He's happy for you to come back to that one. And I do apologise about this, councillors, because we've got to make sure, I don't want to put the finance team on the spot. So, Councillor Reid, have you got a...
Yeah, just, I think our manager of parks had actually done some homework on this, and he had a per game cost increase.
Yes, he had. However, Councillor Cooper, I don't believe, was at that meeting at the time. So that's why he's just asking for that clarification. So we'll just make sure that Delise and Ellen can actually get that very clearly clarification for a team of 20 who are playing rugby for their year of playing the game on a sports field. Councillor Olsen, you got a question?
Yeah, I'll word it as a question. Am I to, or the, we, how do I word this?
Do you want to come back to it? Because I think Ellen's got an answer.
No, the question is, the deficit is 153,000.
So is the deficit 153,000 for the year?
Yeah.
And Delise, again, is nodding for that answer.
Yes, okay, thank you. And just no, I'm not gonna make a statement because I think I'm gonna take this further.
Okay. You've already spoken, by the way, Councillor, just to point out. Ellen, you've got an answer for Councillor Cooper.
Through the Chair, Your Worship, the difference for a senior rugby player with a team of 20 is $46 per year from this year.
Thank you very much.
Sorry, could you repeat that?
$46 per year.
Compared
to this year for a
just so
senior
everyone
player.
Understands, Ellen has just said for a team of 20 adult players, and again, didn't need to clarify there, so thank you for saying that, Ellen. For a team of 20 players who want to play rugby per year, it's an increase of $46 per person. Is that correct, Ellen? Yep.
Yes.
I don't think it makes a difference on the legal union on that one. There's no bias. Councillor Mackenzie.
I'd just like to foreshadow another motion if that part of this recommendation isn't approved by the council. Thank you.
And Councillor Hulse.
Yeah, we've workshopped this item a couple of times, but the main thing here is we haven't lifted the price of sports fields probably for 15 years. And so time has come now to actually look at the cost it's costing us to maintain these fields, which we actually maintain at a pretty good standard. I do not like quoting one rugby team because I don't think there's one field in the whole Whangarei District only has one team playing on it. And then you've got training runs a couple of times this week as well. So it's multiple use fields. Yeah.
Yep. Councillor Connop.
This is a question, please. Some framing. With some of the information within the agenda, obviously rates and fees go up for whatever reason. And some of the ones are some of the items are quite high. Are we, as we go forward, going to look at them better and incrementally increase them rather than such a large jump for some items?
And that's a very good question, Councillor, and it's actually been highlighted in previous meetings that is the better way to go forward, because we are quite conscious of a lot of the costs increasing to do the jobs, especially around our playing fields, and especially because the damage that's actually happening to them by members of our community, also by wear and tear. So it is being acknowledged, and that is why. And I think Councillor Hulse also highlighted the fact that the last time it was actually increased. So going forward, and that was the discussion amongst the elected members, that there should be a small increase each year in relation to those playing fields, and also in relation to other issues because costs are increasing. Okay. Councillor Harding.
Thank you, He Te Kora Matua. I just thought I'd try my button because it got missed a couple of times, but He Te Pai. Okay, I just really want to make a comment around, you know, we know that there's going to be a new annual rates increase. You know, we've got Taumata Arawai and ComCom, right, and their additional levies. We're going to have the stormwater introduced new targeted rates thrown upon us, and now we're going to kick them in the guts where it hurts for our communities and their sports and recreation. I really don't think that's fair this time round. And acknowledge, perhaps it is the first time that we're looking at, you know, increasing because of the maintenance charges, but I really don't think that's fair right now. Kia ora.
Point's been made. Councillor McKenzie.
I agree with Councillor Harding. And it comes down to a bigger debate of greater good
sorry,
versus...
Just checking before you keep going, sorry. You foreshadowed that you wanted to have a motion.
Does that preclude me from speaking?
Yeah, it does. Sorry,
no worries.
Councillor.
I'll speak to the next one if it comes through.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor, for allowing me that. I just need to make sure, because Nicolene's, I've got the team here making sure you do things right. Councillor Benny.
Yeah, just briefly, I support what Councillor Harding has said. Sports fields are not used solely by sports clubs. You look at Kamarek, Tiki Pongarek, Hika, and all our, and Kensington Park, etc. The majority of the users are the general public, paid for by rates. So I can't support this continually increasing fees to sports clubs, and I won't be voting for it.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Councillor Reid.
Thank you, Your Worship. I've got a little bit of a different take on it. We have targeted rates for a number of things, and I'm just suspecting that might be where Councillor McKenzie may be coming from, is that perhaps under our sports fields we need to be thinking more in that line. Personally, I'm against any increases, but it's a fact of life, so I have to accept that. But we hear every day, and especially today, that perhaps we're not quite delivering on our promises, but we are charging for them. So I think to justify what we are proposing, we need to do a lot better at what we're supposed to do. And I will be driving towards that change. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Reid. Councillor Connor.
May I move an amendment?
Sure.
Whether it works or not.
Yeah, what's the amendment?
Same as the rest of the agenda item, except the second option under D, saying adopts the inflation-only increase based on local government cost index, LGCI, of 3.2 for 2025-26 playing field rental fee and charges, which is not subject to the special consultation procedure, noting that additional maintenance costs will be funded by general rates and reduce council's balance budget position.
So what he's asking for is sorry, Councillor, I didn't make sure that Nicoline understands it. So he's asking for all the items to be the same except for D, and D is actually then put in as the alternate, which is the adopts inflation. Correct. Okay. And Councillor Peters, I believe you're seconding, is that correct? Yep, Councillor Peters seconding. Speak to that.
Thank you. I don't play on any specific sport team, but I do see the value that the teams that we have in our district and those who are wanting to grow benefit from. We have people out there who regularly campaign on social issues of a child on the field is one out of court, or one in a sports court is out of court. But putting fees up are going to hurt some of these clubs which are in the lower areas, the ones who are not able to be financial, to get those financials up. we want them to be, and we want to be able to provide the best. And I hear that people don't want to put the funds into them, but we also want the best sports fields for them to play on. We want the best lighting for them to be able to utilize so they can play at many hours of the day rather than not being able to. As I said before, I'm not on a sports team whatsoever, but I see the good that it is out there, and a small incremental raise on everybody saves a huge cost on a few. So for me, this is what I support, and I just wanted to move that as is.
Okay. Thank you. Councillor Mackenzie.
Thank you. I support some of the other speakers, in particular Councillor Harding's comments around this. It's just really terrible timing, and let's be clear, on page 41, the proposed fees are 150% increase on what there currently is in place. So I just think that that's completely untenable in this climate. And it doesn't send the right signal that we want to allow our sports fields and sports clubs to be accessible to members of the public to come and play sports, which we know the well-being that is fostered and created by people being involved in sport. I agree with Councillor Benny that they're not the only sports clubs are not the only users of these spaces. They're public spaces. They're used by other members of the public in between times. And therefore, I think it's fair and just that there is an element of general rates that funds that, and it's not just purely user pays. And I appreciate that this is slightly out of step and that this is less funded by user pays than some of our other activities, but I think that that is warranted given the greater good that is created through these activities.
Good, thank you. Councillor Rooker.
Thank you, Bishop. Just quickly from me, support a lot of the corridor that's been shared already. We already know how hard all sports clubs are doing it, we already know. They're struggling to keep the lights on. And then so what happens from there is if there's an increase in usage fees, then they got to increase their player fees, the fees to register for teams, therefore it's less accessible or for kids to be on sports teams and to register for seasons, all of that sort of stuff. So it all trickles down, and like Councillor Connop was alluding to, kids playing sport helps them stay out of trouble. We already know that. So as far as I just total the corridor that's gone on so far. Kia ora.
Thank you. Councillor Peters.
I think, actually, I've been preempted by previous speakers. I do see sports fields in the same level as I see other services that we provide, like the library. I don't think maybe at the same level, but it is actually really important for people to get out and involve themselves in sport. And in some cases, it leads them onto a wonderful career. So thank you for letting me speak.
Yep, no problem. Councillor Cooper.
Thank you, Your Worship. I agree actually with all the speakers on both sides of this debate. No, I don't think anybody is saying that sports is not good. And I don't think anybody is saying that encouraging children to be involved with sports is not good. But just to be the devil's advocate in this argument, we are facing increases, as has been said, across the board. Now, if the sports people who use the fields don't pay them, then the people that will have to go into the general rate. We're already facing pressure under the general rate. So let's just remember that. It's not like people are suggesting the general rate goes up by the amount, this $153,000. They're just saying we'll find that in the general rate somewhere. So there'll be less for something else, but nobody identifies what else. Also, I think it is the subject of equitability has been brought up. And so what's going to happen here is you have some communities who look after their own sports fields, so they will pay that fee themselves. They'll look after their own, and then they will subsidise clubs in town supporting their own fields, having the sports fields in town. So I think it's a very, very tricky one. It brings us back to that age-old conflict of interest that we have as elected members, where we really want to do things that is nice for our community, but sometimes there is tough decisions to be made. And I think it's something to bear in mind. And let's remember, if my arithmetic is right, that senior rugby player would only have had a $3 increase each year for 15 years if the decisions had been made at the time. So they haven't been made at the time. So I suggest that it's tough and it potentially won't be popular, but I suspect the right thing to do is to get the people to pay the fees. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Councillor McKenzie, you've already spoken. You've got a question?
Yes, I do, Your Worship. During the briefing on this, I asked if there could be options presented from the staff to where you might find that $153,000 otherwise.
Yep.
Have the staff managed to do that through you?
I will go back. That's a very good question. Delise and Alan, have you managed to provide that information? I don't see it here in the agenda.
If you, through the chair, if you're referring to sponsorship, that would be referred back to Louis to look at.
No, I just asked if it was to be taken out of the general rates pool without increasing rates, where would you find that money? And I asked for options to be brought back.
That's correct.
I don't see that in the paper.
That's not.
And it was referred to by other elected members that we don't know where it's coming from. But that question was asked.
Yeah, it was. Dom's got an answer to this, apparently.
I think that's a piece of work that would need to be brought back if the amendment goes through as passed, and the Parks team will do that.
Yeah. I think what Dom is saying is that work's going to be done. However, there'll also be pointed out it is through the Parks Department, so it will actually have to come out of the Parks budgets in that side of things as well. Yeah. I'm going to go to Councillor Holmes.
Thank you, Worship. Whilst I would normally support user pays as a principle, I think the overwhelming benefit to our community would encourage me to support this amendment that Councillor Connop has put forward. I do think if we stay with the original proposal, I think it's those least able to pay would be most disadvantaged. So I'm in support of this, of Councillor Connop's amendment.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Jovich,
Question.
Yep.
Yeah. I got a question. One is right apply, when I can have that.
I was going to come to that, and if you can have...
just to clarify that. The question is to our esteemed finance team is, what is approximately our parks budget? Is it $150,000 worth? For people online, that was a nod as in a no.
Yeah, so Councillor Jovich, I think Alan wants to actually answer that question to actually what the budget actually is.
Yeah, through the chair, Delise will get that. The 153,000 is just a shortfall in current sportsfield maintenance.
Correct.
So we'll just, before you keep going out, Councillor Jovich, Delise has got the figure there specifically as well to answer that first part of the question.
And to my, while she's doing that, our fellow accountant, who's our CFO, a senior cricket pitch at the moment is $720 worth, so they're only played on 26, say half a year, and I've just done it roughly on 26. That comes to $27 worth to actually maintain that pitch per week. Knowing the amount of $27 in your esteemed thinking, Alan, would that cut a lot of grass on a cricket pitch, roll it for all the man hours, and given the living wage?
Absolutely not. I guess these fees are only recovering about 3% of the true cost. The 97% is paid for through general rates.
Thank you, Alan. That's quite telling in terms of some of the comments that have been raised.
Councillor
Jovich, for clarifying that.
Yeah, so I'll just, Delise, have you got an answer to that first question there?
Yes, through the chair, for the sports ground cost centre, the operating cost budget is about 2.5 million for the annual plan.
So just to make sure I hear that right, that was 2.5 million.
Correct.
Okay.
So further questions. So in terms of my esteemed finance team, that 2.5 million is actually being covered by general rates at this stage.
That's correct, at least a small portion from user pays.
So all the ratepayers are actually paying for the fields at this stage.
Yes, that is correct. That is exactly what Delisa and Ellen are saying. That's correct.
Okay,
Councillor
just to
Gavage?
clarify, because I didn't tend to get that from some of the comments that have been made.
Yeah, okay. So what I'm going to go back to now is Councillor Jovic, would you like to speak to it now, or would you like your right of reply? If you have your right of reply, that means no one else can speak afterwards, as per standing orders.
Right reply?
Yep.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Finance team. I think it's just untenable that Council has allowed the fields to untenable that the Council has allowed our finances to get to the situation where our fields are not kept up to date. Some of the fields, yes, I agree, are of a quality. Some of the fields haven't been kept up to a quality standard that is necessary. I'm heavily involved at Koropupu, and we had an international facility set up there for a World Cup, and it has been let go. We talk about a budgeted position in terms of our financial stability, and I reiterate what we just have spoken to about Standard & Poor's. The government has come out and is looking at options around how councils will run their financial systems, and that includes possible capping. Yes, that's down the track, lots to happen, but that could be 2 or 3%. These numbers at this stage aren't covering anything in terms of the actual work that is required. The quality fields, as I've spoken, are not of a necessary quality for our community to actually advance their sporting aspirations. If we want them to succeed and are playing on boggy fields, we are not going to get that. Furthermore, by you not allowing these charges to go through, as a PCBU, I question our health and safety. The damage through injuries on ACC because we are not allowing our fields to be looked after properly. This is the additional work on top of just the cutting of the grasses. So it is the extra stuff that is necessary that needs to be taken care of. We spoke in our briefings and workshops about options for the clubs. Yes, I agree that our grants are dropping off. However, that is still an avenue for sports clubs to follow. We spoke of sponsorship options that we are going to investigate where signage can go up. So there are avenues for sports clubs, but just in summary, I'm against this amendment, and that the proposed fees need to be increased, and I believe they are actually too low in the first place. But if we don't do it now, you're not going to get it in 2 or so years' time if the government changes your capping. And it's just untenable that we have allowed our fields to get to the stage. So from a financial position and a health and safety, I implore you not to agree to this amendment.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillors, we will now, as the right of reply has been had, we will now move the amendment. All those in favour? Division has been called by Councillor Reid. All those in favour, please raise your right hand on the amendment. Does anyone want me to explain what the amendment is? Okay. So make sure I've got this correct before you raise your hands, councillors. So it is in relation to the fees and charges. So the amendment is A as A, B as B, C as C. When it comes to D, it is basically where it adopts an inflation-only increase based on local government's cost index CGI of 3.2%. And this can be seen on page 41 for those who want to have a look. And then for the 2025-26 playing field, which is E, yes. Playing fields, rental fees and charges, which are not subject to the special consultation process, noting that additional maintenance cost will be funded by general rates and reduced council's balanced budget position. and F, which is as is. All those in favour, please raise your right hand.
Councillor Ruka, Councillor Mackenzie, Councillor Holmes, Councillor Harding, Councillor Connop, Councillor Benny, Councillor Peters.
Those against?
Councillor Jovich, Councillor Reid, Councillor Olsen, Councillor Hulse, Councillor Golightly, Councillor Cooper, His Worship the Mayor.
We will take the casting vote as no, and then we'll move back into make it a substantial motion. So we'll now move to the substantial motion.
Just a question, is that option still going to be taken as separately as originally requested?
Yes, that can be taken separately as originally as posted.
And
So just to make sure everyone is on the same page so we understand, the amendment was lost. We're now moving to the original motion, which was A, B, C, D, which adopts the fees, and you can see those on page 40 or page 57 to 58 of the proposed fees and charges special consultation procedure, and F. All those in favour?
Is that one being taken as separately?
Thank you for reminding me then, Councillor. Yes, so we'll do A, B, C and F as one motion. All those in favour?
Sorry. Excuse me, sorry, it's E.
No, it's F. D and F.
No, we changed it to be E. It's a
Okay, sorry.
It's a typographical error. So it's actually not F, it's E.
Okay. Yep. Fair comment. Change has been done, yes. All those in favour? Division was called by Councillor Connop. All those in favour, please raise your right hand.
Councillor Jovich, Councillor Ruka, Councillor Reid, Councillor Olsen, Councillor Mackenzie, Councillor Holmes, Councillor Harding, Councillor Hulse, Councillor Golightly, Councillor Cooper, Councillor Connop, Councillor Benny, Councillor Peters, and His Worship the Mayor.
Okay, it's unanimous. And then option D, which has been taken separately. All those in favour? And a division has been called, Councillor Connop, already. All those in favour?
Councillor Jovich, Councillor Reid.
So just to understand, this is item D, which has been taken separately.
Councillor Jovich, Councillor Reid, Councillor Olsen, Councillor Hulse, Councillor Golightly, Councillor Cooper, Councillor Benny, Councillor Peters, His Worship the Mayor.
Those against?
Councillor Ruka, Councillor Mackenzie, Councillor Holmes, Councillor Harding, Councillor Connop.
It's been carried. Thank you, councillors. I know that was a very hard one to go through, and I realise that. This is a process of the consultation that we go through. That particular item, which was in relation to the parks, was not. We'll now move on to item 7.5.
Can I just ask a question?
Yes, Councillor
Your
Olsen.
Worship? Why is something like that not put out for public consultation?
As explained within the processes that council has, it's one of those things that does not require consultation. That does not mean or does not stop anyone from submitting on it. And that is one thing to make very, very clear. If the public have still the right to submit on anything that council actually does within the annual plan and fees and charges processes, there is nothing stopping anyone from commenting on it.
I appreciate that, but the general public probably don't know what's going on.
In my time as mayor and also as elected member, I can tell you the public will comment on everything and anything that they choose to, and they have done that many, many times, whether it's in the consultation document or not. So we'll now move on to page 163, which is item 7.5. And this is the annual plan 2025-26 consultation document with supporting documents. It's in the the supplementary agenda. That's correct. Yep. So I will move that Council 1 agrees to the consultation issues for the draft 2025-26 annual plan, which includes new stormwater targeted rate. And this option here will be taking option 1, which is introduce a targeted district-wide universal rate of 0.0003696 per dollar of land value. This work would work out to be an average cost of $180 per household. And then they reduce the uniform annual general charge, which is option 1, from 2025 to 26. Council reduces the UAGC from $909 to $500. This would relieve some of the rates burden for lower value property owners. And then 2, nope, I'm on 2. 1 second here. Yeah, there we are, down to, sorry, Alan.
Just Your Worship, just noting, this is different to the previous agenda item. We're not asking you to choose one of these. We are saying we're going to put both of these out for consultation.
Thank you. I thought that was the case. I wanted to make sure of it.
So both should be in the recommendation, in the resolution.
Sorry?
So both of these, both options should be in the resolution.
Yeah, so either consult on a grant targeted at relief for farm and business zone land seeking feedback on the following options, which is A and B, which is option 1, increase commercial and industrial rates for rural rates of 1.2 to provide temporary relief to owners of business-owned property used for farming. Support will be available for a maximum of 3 years, after which landowners will transition to fully business-owned rates. And B, option 2, do not provide temporary relief to owners or business-owned properties used for farming. This would mean properties would continue to be rated within their current zoning, which, with no relief provided under the option, the additional 1.2% rates increase for commercial and industrial rural rates will not be needed to fund this proposed business zone rates adjustment. 3, adopts a consultation document attachment 1 and consultation supportive documents attachment 2 for the draft 2025-26 annual plan. 4, authorises through the Chief Executive any necessary drafting, administrative, typographical or presentation corrections prior to printing and distributing, including any updates required prior to finalising the consultation documents. This includes any changes required from decisions made within this meeting, including those relating to the proposed farming business zone land grant provision. And 5, notes that budgets will need to be prioritised to manage impacts of high-risk budgeting OPEX and to identify with possible savings going forward. Where prioritisation has the potential to material impact on service delivery, it will be brought back to Council. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Reid is seconding that. Councillors, I realise that it is a huge big words that I've just gone through. The whole purpose of this is we are in the process of making sure that our public have a say over where we go for in the next parts of this document. And that is because of, the first part there is the targeted rate. This is something which, as I stated before, we have identified as a lacking area of Council, and realising that we need to be able to cover those costs because the stormwater side of things was not being looked after properly. The second part, which was in relation to the uniform annual general charge, this also, as stated previously, affects not just the lower income homeowners, but it helps out those within the commercial sector who actually have SUIPs where a UAGC is then applied to it. And the UAGC is then multiplied by the number of SUIPs that you have on the property. So there is a benefit in that respect there. To the same degree, when we came to the business zones or business, where a farm was originally a farm and then zoned as commercial business, there was a time period which wasn't actually encouraging development to actually happen on those areas. So this is why this option needs to be put out to the public. Okay. Yeah. And the grant, as was highlighted, only affects a very few groups of people, as was highlighted within the agenda. I'm well aware that this does differ from the special economic zone, and the main reason for that is because we're unsure of how that will actually work at the end of the day, and we may actually have a government which will actually turn around and change that procedure later on. So while we may put in an option right now, it may be overridden with what the government plans to do for the Marsden Point, and we cannot predetermine what central government will actually do on that respect, so we need to have a decision going forward. Councillors, as you can see, the agenda item does cover everything, but it does go out for consultation, which is the other side of things as well, and that's probably the most important part of this. This takes it out to the public to have their say. I'm well aware that not everyone will agree with the processes that has been submitted out there, and I'm well aware that not everyone will agree with the cost increases or the lowering of the UAGC. However, these are the options that we're going to take out to the public for their consultation, which is the most important part. Do I have any comments or questions? Councillor Hulse.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm going to continue my debate about the proposal, what's in the proposal about rural land being now zoned commercial and people having to pay that money. I'd just like to remind all the councillors that the port down in Marsden Point only was open in 2004. So in 20 years, you've seen all that development in Marsden Point. And to be told that we're putting this rate on because the rural farmland is not developing, zone commercial is not developing fast enough. Well, I just remind everyone to go down there and see how much development has happened in that short time. So it's incorrect commentary to say that it's not being developed. The point is, if it's got animals running around on it, it's got fences on it, an animal's an animal, and it's the old saying, it looks like a dog, barks like a dog, it is a dog. And like it's a rural farmland, and in the past, we have not been able to collect the money off. It's always been rural land, so the so-called deficit has been explained here. We want to get the commercial funding in on rural land. We've never had that money in the first place. So it's not a loss. We've never had it. But now it's been zoned through a real misunderstood consultation where no one of these landowners was informed. I find that actually real bad for this council. So I'm totally opposed to actually calling this farmland commercial in the first place, but to charge rates that we've never had in the past and credit to say we're losing so much money is incorrect. Thank you.
Councillor Connor.
Thank you. Initially with that 1.2% across everybody, it's a bit of a concern when it's only going to be going to a potential few people. If it was for the general good, I'd probably be more in favour of it, but we're looking at it a different way as well as options looking to central government, which it's been good to hear that it's being put forward through consultation. As this is an annual plan, it is the re-guidance of our long-term plan, which is great to hear that we're as on track as we can be. Looking forward to getting as many responses as possible through it, knowing we're going to get some things that have absolutely nothing to do with it, and also know that we are going to be getting points that will be raised throughout the document. I'm hoping that we get as much feedback as possible. I know there are different points of view of the silent majority or the vocal minority or majority, and there's so many different ways you can throw it and perspectives that are around it. And even if there was no feedback whatsoever that people are comfortable with it, I don't think that's probably accurate, as some people have said. That's probably not getting it out to enough people, probably. But looking forward to reading the feedback that is gained from this, and hope that many of our public do respond.
Councillor Cooper.
Thank you, Your Worship. I would like to speak on two parts of this proposal. Thank you. The first one is to address the subject of this farmland. And I support what Councillor Hulse has said, but I guess would like to just focus a little more on why it has come to in front of the council. And the reason for me is that we have land out at the port, which is farming land. It is zoned commercial, and there are people who cannot develop it to the commercial level because we as a council do not have the capacity to take on the wastewater that would be produced if it was developed commercially. So they're being charged rates for a situation that they actually can't, they are stopped from achieving. I don't believe that's fair, neither do they. So this is potentially a way of addressing that. And it is going out to consultation so we can see what the public think of that. The second area is the area of the UAG and lowering that, and I think that is a critical area to bring to the public's attention. What we are trying to do is make it more equitable for people in low-value housing to get on with their lives, and at the same time we are trying to encourage more vibrancy in our inner city dwelling. And greater use of our infrastructure, if you like, and our assets within the city centre. And that is something that ever since I've been on council we have been trying to achieve, is vibrancy in our city centre. So I think it's a great opportunity for the public to look through the document and understand the consequences of those changes and have their say on what they would like us to do. So I support the document. I thank the staff for their work. The rate review process is not an easy one because, as everybody I think understands, it's a closed system. So if we take it from one person, we have to add it on to another person over here. And so what happens is we stick with the status quo. So I think it's very good that we're actually challenging that and having a look. The public can decide. Thank you to the staff.
Yep. Thank you, Councillor Gerber. Councillor Golightly.
Thank you. Just quickly, I've been here a fair amount of time and I still sometimes cannot get my head around rates. So I just want to commend page 182 and 183. That is brilliant.
Yep. Thank you, Councillor, for highlighting that. Yes, you are right, and it does make a big difference. And having the document easy to read like that is a wonderful thing. Absolutely.
Good for my head.
Yeah, and Councillor, it's not just for you, but you're absolutely right. It's making it as easy for people to understand is the number one key thing. Councillor Mackenzie.
Through you, Your Worship, may I ask a question of the staff, which is how many households in the district would benefit from a reduction of the UAGC versus the status quo?
I believe that's actually part of the agenda. However, I know that Alan is pulling his documentation right together as we do this, and let us get the official wording from Alan at that present moment, because as I said, I do know it is in the agenda because I have read it there. However, we will get Alan to answer that.
Through the chair, if we compare the status quo option to the reduced UAGC, it's not comparing this year, next year, it's all the choice for next year. There are, in total, including all sectors, 5,402 people get a reduction between 6 and 9%.
So so Alan, just to clarify that, that's not people, that's 5,400 properties.
Correct, thank you, yep. And 10,243 with a reduction greater than 10%. Now that excludes those movements of less than $100. So, but yeah, it's 15,000. Being significant movements.
Yep. So 15,000 properties out of these 65,000 properties. Will benefit. Does that answer your question, Councillor Mackenzie?
I was under the impression it was like a majority that would benefit from that change versus the status quo relative to what it would be otherwise.
Alan, are you able to answer a little bit more on that?
Not necessarily a net reduction in rates increase, but a reduction relative to the status quo, if that makes sense.
I get Alison just come to give me the numbers here. I just want to make sure I'm interpreting them accurately.
Sorry to put you on the spot.
That's okay. We'll just give
I knew the question was coming. We try to get the information ready for this.
While Alison is preparing herself, is there any other questions for the team? These are good questions, by the way, and these are good clarification questions, especially for the team to be able to answer, because it's important for the public to actually understand as well. Yes, Councillor Hulse hasn't taken the microphone off since earlier.
So we're just making sure it's hard to get this what we're comparing to. As way look at it. If it's comparing the rates movement from this year to next year, where there's, as well as the UAGC factor, there's also the revaluations we've had. So there's lots of different factors involved in this. But the cumulative effect of this, yeah.
Alison comes to the rescue.
Okay, so there's about 15,000 properties that are going to see a very low or no rates increase or a rates decrease. And then there's a further 10,000 or 11,000 that are going to see up to the average rates increase. So basically 25,000 properties are impacted favourably by the increase and the remainder are less favourably.
Okay, I think that answers the question. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the time, councillors, and thank you for the team. I know it's not always easy to be put on the spot there, so Councillor McKenzie, try answering that question beforehand so we can get the, any other questions of the team or comments?
I've just got one question, Your Worship. On page 183, it says that the rural property is going up 30%. Is that based on throwing a dart at a dartboard, or is it because you feel that the rural properties are getting an increase in services? And
So just for clarification's purpose, Councillor is referring to page 183, which actually gives an example of a rural property with a land value of $3.45 million. Now, Alan, are you able to answer a question in relation to that?
Yes, through the Chair. This is an example of property which is adversely affected by the UAGC change.
And
so the higher value ones will pay a much higher increase.
So that was not, I don't think council's understood that through our workshop, because I discussed that through our workshop, because we put the uniform annual general charge up to $750 years ago to counteract this.
Yeah, Councillor, you've already spoken to the motion.
The point is,
Councillor, you've already spoken to the motion.
Yeah,
so
I didn't get an answer. My answer was, are the rural properties getting increased services?
So
that's what we charge rates for.
So the question that's been posed back to the staff is, are the rural ratepayers or the rural property owners going to get an increase in service?
Through this change, no.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Olsen.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, I'm on a similar vein. Page 182, residential lifestyle properties with a land value of $640,000 are going to go up by 29.4%. Holy moly. I have real concerns. And rural property, we're not going to get any, or rural properties are not going to get any increased services. So, yeah, I find that hard to swallow, I'm afraid.
Alan, you've got something else to add to that?
So through the chair, we discussed this through the briefings, as was mentioned by previous councillors, it's a closed system. So any benefit for one ratepayer, another ratepayer is paying for. So if we refer to pages 248 onwards, we've got two versions of these sample properties. One is the status quo, and one is with the UAGC lower. So the example that Councillor Holst used, the real property value at 3.45 million, the increase is 16.1% on the status quo compared to the 30.4 if we put this change through. So you've seen the impact of the UHC change between those two properties. And similarly to the one that Councillor Olsen has referred to, it's 17.8 compared to 29.4. So that's the other side of this. So lower value properties are getting a big benefit, but that is being effectively paid for by higher value properties. That's an inevitability of the rating system.
And thank you, Alan, for explaining that, because yes, that is correct. It is about a closed system. There is not much wriggle room in there, and that's what we have to deal with. Councillor Reid.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just hope that the general ratepayer out there didn't have to read it as many times as I did to get his head around it. Yeah. And I would suggest that we become very familiar with page 185 and 186, because when they do, we're going to have a fair amount of reading to do in May. Thank you.
Yeah. So, councillors, I will have the right to reply because there's no one else who's going to speak. Look, the most important thing is, councillors, this is going out for consultation. That's the most important part about this. And we do need our public to have a say. We need to make sure that they understand it very clearly. The comms that we'll be putting out is going to be very clear about explaining it. Yes, and you can look at it from a win and lose situation. There may be some winners, there may be some losers. The most important thing that we all need to acknowledge is this is a closed system. There is not much that can actually be modified or changed. There is always going to be someone who's going to have to pay. And the services that are being paid for are the services that we provide as a council. This includes everything from looking after our parks, which we talked about before, right the way through to doing the sewage, doing the water, and making sure the roads are actually getting to places as well. We also know, and we're also well aware, that the costs have increased. And as someone who does not like to spend money and likes to make sure every dollar is spent to the nth degree properly, and I know Councillor Jovic is also in the same boat on that, we like to make sure that our costs are attributed to things that we can actually see. So we're quite conscious of that. And right now, there probably needs to be better comms put out there explaining what council actually pays for and what actually council does. We do a lot for our community, and a lot that people do take for granted. And this is about making sure that we become an affordable district, that we are budgeting for a future. Again, this is about making sure that our growth is being maintained and looking after. So again, I say, the most important aspect here is about consultation, and the public get a say in it. Councillors, I have had the right of reply. All those in favour? Any opposed? And Councillor Benny, you would like to note yours abstaining. Okay. That has been carried. Thank you, councillors. We'll now move on to page... You are right, Nicolene. It has come to that time, and I do need to ask, we normally take a break exactly at 2 hours. It's now just come on 2 hours. I'm going to ask at this present moment whether the councillors like to do this next item or would like to have a break here at this point. I'm going to, sorry, Councillor Cooper, before you get up, I'm just going to make sure. Those in favour of taking a break right now? Those against? Okay, as carried, we'll take a break. Yep. So we'll take a break for 10 minutes. Okay, so we're now moving on to item, just double checking, have we got Councillor Peters? Okay, so just send a message to her, please. Okay, Councillor Reid, you would like to move item 7.6, which is local water done well consultation.
Yes, I would, Your Worship, thank you. Number 2, recommendations that the Whangarei District Council, 1, notes the report. 2, agrees to consult on the following options. A, an in-house business unit with increased collaboration with Northland councils. B, a Northland Council controlled organisation, CCO, with Kaipara and Far North District Councils, drinking and wastewater only. 3, agrees that the current preferred option is option A, an in-house business unit with increased collaboration with Northland councils. 4, approves that the attached consultation document and proposed consultation program. 5, authorises the Chief Executive to make minor changes to the consultation document prior to release to fix any errors, provide clarifications and incorporate relevant feedback from elected members at this meeting. 6, there's a one-word change here, agrees to work with other Northland councils to explore managed, shared, contracted service arrangements where appropriate. So there's a slash between each of those. So we, just to clarify. Point 7, agrees to work with other Northland councils on the establishment of a transition advisory group to further investigate the potential for shared / managed / contracted services and how a Northern council controlled organisation could be possible. 8, notes that the terms of reference for and appointments to any transition advisory group will be reported back to council for consideration following discussions with and feedback from other Northland councillors.
And I have Councillor Reid seconding that. Councillor Jovic, would you like to speak to that?
No, other way around.
Sorry, Councillor Jovic speaking that. Councillor Reid, would you like to speak to that?
Oh, I'm not sure who I am at this point. Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, this local water's done well is probably the best step forward since the fiasco we had with Three Waters and its attempted introduction. We now have the ability and we have the staff with the intellect and the know-how to take us forward into a new era. We must, for our ratepayers, take up that doctrine and go with it. There is a lot to be said for our position within the country as far as a rating goes on this subject, and we are pretty near the best, and it's very, very pleasing to be the chair of the infrastructure team that has got us into that position, something I'm very proud of. If we can show the DIA that we are capable of being a standalone unit, we then will have the ability to either contract out our services or share our services and draw the other councils along with us. And that will probably lead to a better regional deal than we're likely to find anywhere else in this country. And I'm very proud of where we are. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Reid. Any other comments? Councillors, I'm just going to say here that Councillor Reid has highlighted it very, very well, and I'm glad that he added those extra words in there. Quite clearly makes sense. We have been asked by central government to form a CCO. Now, they have asked all regions within New Zealand, not just Northland, but all regions. And in our discussions with DIA and with other government departments, we've made it quite clear that while a CCO might be the government's preferred option, and that might work for something like Wellington, however, for Whangarei, we are in a completely different scenario. And we are in a scenario where we have actually done things right, we have actually been praised for doing things right, and we may actually have a better alternative for Northland. So I'm quite pleased that the amendment's been put, or the motion's been put with those extra words in there, which actually allow that to actually happen. The biggest thing, again, I come back down to, this is going out for consultation. This is coming back out to our public to actually have a say in which option they would prefer. Now, I personally may have a view on that. However, I do know that the public that we represent here may have a different view and may prefer us to go one way or the other. However, at the end of the day, that is the whole purpose of this. This is about going out to making sure the public have a say and give us direction over which way they would prefer. This is the same thing which is happening in the far north and the same thing which is happening in the Kaipara. They have also gone through these agendas.
Sound is off.
Sorry, Councillor Peters, what was that? Right, okay, Councillor Peters, yep. And as I said, the most important thing is this is going out for consultation. So I do know that there is a chance that we may have some comments from the staff in relation to how the other councils have moved. But at this present moment, we don't technically need that because we have got a very clear recommendation before us. Councillor Connor.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm not going to speak too much on this, though what I am going to say is it's good to be working with the other councils around us in collaboration in various ways and forms in the discussions that have started and will continue. Many of us travel through these other areas, many of us have family and friends in these other areas, and the best for Tisa Tokerau, all of our areas, all of our councils, is better for everybody. So collaborating as best as possible with them to the best possible outcome is essential. Looking forward to hearing the feedback from Whangarei residents and whoever else submits feedback.
Councillor Hulse.
Thank you, Worship. Only a brief comment. I spoke up at Northland Forward together about taking up a challenge of Northland doing this really well together. And I think we need to follow through on that. And I think we're in a good position to actually assist our neighbouring councils. But at the same time, we expect the government to play their part as a funding base. So that'll come up through this discussion. So I'm pretty pleased it's going out for consultation. Thank you.
Councillor Holmes.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a couple of comments. I support this. Just a comment around the managed shared surfaces. I mean, you hear this in so many industries about there are savings to be had and to be taken advantage of in shared services. All I would say, an observation is, it's easy to say, it's very difficult to actually achieve, and I think we need to be careful about hanging our hats on real savings, because they are notoriously difficult to identify and to exploit and to get real savings. I think the second thing I just wanted to say is we keep talking about how well this council has done in terms of our waters and wastewaters. It would be remiss of me not to say that the people out in Whangarei Heads would disagree with you. And it does come back to bite me personally regularly when I say how well we've done as a council. I'm reminded of the constant waste disposal trucks trundling up and down Whangarei Heads Road, dealing with wastewater problems that are yet to be resolved. So I think we need to just temper our rhetoric around this a wee bit. And I think the final thing I would say is let's not be complacent about this either, because if anybody watched the news last night, they'll have seen the Queenstown Lakes District Council using emergency powers to discharge treated sewage into the Shotover. So, you know, we're one slip away from something equally as abhorrent as that, so we mustn't be complacent.
Fair comments. No other comments been made. Councillor Reid, would you like your right of reply?
I certainly would, Your Worship, thank you. I'd be quite happy to front the Parua Bay Ratepayers and Citizens Association when we get all the information on the ingress of water into our septic lines. That wouldn't be a problem. They may be embarrassed, because I certainly won't be. I am embarrassed about the trucks having to keep the tank levels lower, because that is costing us, and not because of our own personal failings as a business. I've spent quite a bit of time liaising, particularly with the Far North District, around this subject, and I think because they've got such a massive issue up there, they're not making any real noises at this stage until they have ascertained exactly their position and what it's likely to set them back. So they've still got an open mind, so I'm quite happy to be the same way, and just urge everybody to get on board with the plan. Thank you.
Right, a reply's been had. All those in favour? Any opposed? Carried. Thank you, councillors. Councillors, at this present moment, I need to move a different motion. I will move us into confidential. Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Olsen, you'll second that? All those in favour? Any opposed? Carried. Thank you, councillors. And while the team prepare the room and Councillor Peters gets her sound sorted, we will